Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman. And in this week's episode, I'm talking with a friend of mine, Barry, who's a retired showman, more specifically, a retired juggler. And you'll hear how Barry stopped sugar for 24 hours 12 years ago. We'll get to our chat in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. Come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. You can also check out my TikTok account at Netta_lifeaftersugar. All right, let's get to my chat with Barry. All right, so I'm here today with Barry Friedman, who is the author of the book, I Love Me More Than Sugar. And before we talk about your book and about sugar and your sugar-free life, Barry, can you tell us a bit about your background with food and sugar?
You bet, but I think I'll keep it interesting and just tell you about the day I met Netta. No, I have never met Netta in person. Hey, everybody. Congratulations for listening to this podcast. Yeah, my name's Barry. Let's see. You won't be able to tell from the photo if she posts one of me, but I'm 62 years old. I was a 4-time world juggling champion. I retired from that after 34 years of touring around the world. In 2016, I retired. So I did it 82 to 2016 and corporate events, TV shows, TED stages, and just, I had a really good time just getting to do something I fully loved in life. It was Leap Day 2012. My son was, that have made him about 8, 9 years old. And he says to me from the backseat of the car, "What are you going to leap for Leap Day?" And I was like, "Oh, what a cool idea." We had just finished eating a massive yogurt, which I will send Netta the picture. If she posts this episode, you can see a picture of me with the last sugar I ever ate. I said, I'm going to leap sugar for the day. So that was the 28th. On the 29th of 2012, I leaped sugar for 24 hours, went to sleep that night, couldn't believe how I felt, and woke up in the morning and said, I got to do 30 days of this. And about halfway through that 30 days, I said, I got to do a year of this. And now it's late 2024. So
And it's been, 12 years?
12 years, yeah. In fact, every 4th year I get a true celebration because it's Leap Day. But yeah, this was one of the good ones. Yeah.
What a smashing idea to do something for Leap Day. I would never have thought. Is that like a tradition or something?
No, that was from the mind of an 8-year-old. It was crazy. He just said, "What are you going to leap for Leap Day?" I think he had just learned about it, and maybe he thought it was something we leap. So I jumped into the wake, and I have no doubt the amount of sugar I would have eaten in the last 12 years would have easily filled this room with a 12-foot ceiling and
Yeah.
and 160 square feet, no problem. So yeah, all that's not in me and through me and part of me, and yeah.
Wow. And did you grow up with sugar as part of your diet?
Oh my gosh, Netta, I grew up like most people. You get that first taste. In fact, you ever see these videos on Instagram at like, Sherry's first birthday party and she dumps the kid's face into the cake and it's just like, my heart breaks because I go, great little Instagram moment, great photo, and welcome to your future. Welcome to your new future. Welcome to where everything else tastes short of that and has effects that no real food will ever have on her young body. So it's sad, but that was me. It was divorced parents who, young people, had no idea how to raise a kid or anything. So, whatever would occupy time. And often that's sugar and sugar and more sugar. Yeah, a lot of it. So, like everybody else, it was part of the role, part of the equation. Unable to eat things that didn't have that certain amount of sweetness to it because that's what my inner barometer said food needed to be considered food.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Los Angeles, California, and I'm still
Oh,
a lifelong Californian. I lived up in Northern California, San Francisco area, and now my wife and I live in Central California on the coast of Central California. Just such beautiful areas.
yeah, lovely. So, typical American diet, what they aptly call SAD, the standard American diet.
Tech,
And so, what did you ever think about your diet before your son brought it up for Leap Day?
I've been married 37 years. My wife is super healthy. Like, she had a healthy relationship. She's one of these few people that had a healthy relationship. Like, she could have like a quarter of a candy bar or something, or like make a s'more at a barbecue. It was that healthy relationship. She's from the Midwest and she was a dancer, so just a real honest relationship between what went in her mouth and how her body moved and looked. And yeah, it was just so. Uh, she was my only example of health. I think we did vegetarianism for probably a couple of years when we first started dating. But yeah, no, sugar was just always there. It was something that called to me when I didn't have it, that demanded more when I did have it, and really made me not a better person or feel better when I was on the other side of it. So, but the idea of quitting or stopping it, not a chance. It's just never. It was never like, oh, I should try doing this.
Hmm.
It was really that night, February 29th, 2012, when I went to sleep and said, I can't believe what I did. Really, I was about to finish 24 hours with no sugar because I didn't have any in my sleep on the 28th.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I was just getting close to finishing a day and I was like, this felt really good. Some of the decisions I made, how my stomach felt, how my teeth felt. Yeah, it
And
wasn't.
so, I mean, it sounds simple enough. Oh, I just didn't eat sugar for 24 hours, and all of a sudden it turns into 12 years. I can't believe it was that easy.
No, in fact, in my book, anyone who reads my book, you will either laugh and say, "What a sissy," or you will be crying and say, "Holy cow!" But I wrote about my day four. My day four was a hero's journey. My day four was had me waking up fully bawling, having a hero's journey inside myself, dark night of the soul. I remember laying on a massage table and telling my wife, just get anything heavy you can and put it on me. I cry so easy right now. Just like hold me down, lay on me, you know, hit me, just whatever. But that was so day four. In fact, I even write about what's your day four in here, in this book. It's a little bit comes out as just like, yeah, what is that? What is that day four? We have so many in our lives and relationships and health and decisions and career choices. There's always this time when you just go, I'm either going to turn left and go back to safety where it was, or I'm just going to turn right and I'm just going to stay through this. So, yeah, it wasn't that hard. It wasn't that easy to quit, but it was never as hard as day four again.
Isn't
Yeah.
that funny? Because I had a day four as well, and only sort of once it's over and you've got a certain distance from it, do you realize
Yeah.
it was day four? Because at the time you're like just not really aware of anything. It's what do you think comes out, whether it's actually literally day four, at some point in this journey, it's not just about quitting sugar, it's about finding yourself. What do you think was
Amen.
happening to you in that day four?
It was it was, it was the dark night of the soul stuff. It's do I want a new future or do I want to go back to what I've always known? And part of me had made that commitment for 24 hours. And then at the end of that day, I said, I'm going to do 30 days of this. So, and I don't quit. No one becomes a four-time world juggling champion because they're forced into it. Like I was obsessed. I know obsession. I have literally uh, medically diagnosed OCD. It's big. When I say something, it gets done. That's just what happened. So I knew I couldn't go back, and the desire was so strong that all the weight on me. I remember that part so specifically, and I know I wrote about that in here. Was yeah, just put weight on me to make me feel my place on earth. I felt um, floating, lost, scared, shaken, and really like, I can't be without this and I can't be with this. It was that really strange liminal area between these two, this well-known past that felt safe, scary, made me feel crappy a lot of the time, but always had that sweet reward on it, and this new future, which I had had a glimpse of and I thought I wanted more of, but it wasn't clear enough yet to actually hold it as something real.
Yeah.
It's still very ethereal.
That
Yeah,
unknown is so scary because if you've always eaten sugar and then you try to imagine your life without it, that is scary because you don't know what's on the other side.
that's right. And you know, it's funny. There's a way that I remember talking about this a lot, and I still think about it in other challenges, not in sugar. That's just such a lifestyle for me now. I don't even think about it. But it was this idea of confusing the words hard or difficult, that it's so hard or that it's difficult, with literally, I just changed those words to it's a new to me skill, new to me. And that made it a lot easier for a guy who, learned how to juggle seven clubs over his head and five burning torches and do it all on a unicycle. It's like all that stuff was just kind of new to me. So, and I get better at it. So it's no different with eating habits. But boy, boy, oh boy, you think about people who have alcoholism or drug addiction and go to meetings. You can live without that stuff, but we have to dwell in this world of stuff that you can't just quit. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of new to me moments. Yeah.
Yes.
What
Yes.
do I
Well,
do in an airport? What do I do in an airport if I'm not going to have a Cinnarol? Like, what do I do with my hands, with my body, my feet, my mouth? What do I do? Yeah, it's new to me.
it's funny that, because you're a juggler, right? That you're talking about what do I do with my hands? You know?
Yeah,
And it
right.
does,
Yeah,
yeah. And it feels like just what do I do with my hands and what do I do with my mouth if I'm not A,
right.
eating all the time and B, eating sugar?
Oh my God. What do I do with all of me? When I'm going through this, what do I do with all of me? My brain down to my toes, like what? And my heart, and my desire, and my habits. It's just, yeah. And it gets easier. It's like I imagine it's like making a sculpture. I've never made one, but you kind of chip away everything that's not the piece you want at the end. And
Mm.
that's really um, what you help people do with sugar. That's what it is. It's like chipping away those pieces. And how do you do it? And how do you get through this moment and that moment? And then replacements are huge. What do I replace? I was never a soda guy. For some reason, that always just seemed disgusting to me. But super sweet fruit juices and a glass of mango juice with like 40 grams of sugar in it or something. All this stuff was there. And slowly, slowly, it starts feeling like, what my body needs right now? It needs some liquid. You know what's a great liquid? Water. It's a great
Yeah.
liquid. So yeah, that stuff's good. There's also, of course, very healthy things we can drink and do drink, but that's, yeah,
Yeah.
it,
And did you
it's those
find that
moments.
in those first 30 days, did you find it surprising where sugar hides itself or is hidden?
Mm, nuts. You know where I found it once? I found it, and it's funny, I don't know how pure my first 15 days were, but I was addicted to different kinds of jerky, salmon, beef jerky. I loved all those. Like they were just good snacks. Brown sugar, number one ingredient on just about uh, every jerky brand in the world. There's one, it's made in Northern California. It's called Riley's, Riley apostrophe S. No sugar in the whole place. In fact, I called them and interviewed them for a little program. I was talking about sugar a long time ago. I said, how do you do this? And why doesn't everyone do this? The guy goes, I don't know. He goes, we don't have any sugar. We just don't have any. And it's the best. So yeah, it was. So there was, yeah, sometimes when I go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was sugar was just sitting in that. It's and then yeah, I mean all the places. It's just so nuts. I mean, you go to like savory crackers, you go to like mouthwash. There's some form of sweetener and all. And it's just like wow, it's,
It's
it's so amazing.
crazy.
So
You count sweeteners with the sugar, right?
yes, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Sweetness was just yeah, it was just killer. So yeah, how pure do you want to be in this? What are you doing? I know you talk about this a lot. I've seen enough of your blogs and podcasts and articles to know that you get to kind of decide where do you want to be with this stuff.
Yeah.
And my funnel always said, eat fruit. I was fine with that. I was so deep down the Reese's peanut butter cup and Kit Kat bars and the oh my God, it was intense. I mean, I can't describe it with any other word except there was always something that was just sweet and made my teeth. I used to love when I got to and I love this. This is how sick it was. But I loved the point when I could feel my pulse in my teeth. I
Oh,
think it was probably my fingers, but I would eat so much sweets, cookies, and whatever that if I touched my two front teeth, I could actually just feel my pulse. Maybe it was probably in my fingertips,
uh,
but I didn't ever do that unless I was eating sugar. Things were just
huh,
beating so much harder. Everything was
yeah.
working hard.
Amazing, amazing. And in your book, you sort of give a blow by blow, day by day description of the 30 days, right?
Yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah.
after that day four, like, why didn't you just give up?
Two reasons. I have a beaming curiosity of something new. I mean, that's one of the things that made me so successful in juggling was I just put away the normal props and started just doing things that were very unusual and took a lot of practice. I got good at juggling three ping pong balls out of my mouth, balancing an entire tableware set on my face up on a pole and knocking out pieces at a time, so it all ended up I mean, it was just kind of nuts. My OCD served me well in some of this stuff, but and then the second thing was I just made this commitment to 30 days. I was like, no, I was like day 31, I can do that. And the funny thing is, I don't remember exactly where it was, day 14 or 15 in the middle. I just changed my thinking to I'm going to do a year of this. So yeah, at that point, I was like, okay, but that was well past day four was in the rearview mirror. It was much easier for me to know what to eat, what to do with my hands, what to do with myself. Um, Sleep instantly got better, and that was something I wanted. I had that young kid, and I liked being awake when he was awake. And unlike teens or 20-year-olds that we have now,
Yep.
those young ones, man, they like to get up early, and I wanted to be up with them.
They
Whenever I
like
was
to
home,
go
I
to
like.
bed at 4 a.m.
Now they do. Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
My one does.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not unusual for me to get a text at 2:30. I'm like, who's up? What?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mom, can you come and pick me up? It's only 3:30 a.m.
Oh,
But I mean, okay, so you had the 30 days. Was there anything during that 30 days that you found just challenging and like made you waver and think, what have I let myself in for? I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. Was there anything during that 30 days that you found just challenging and like made you waver and think, what have I let myself in for?
it was it was stopping jerky. I was like, wait a minute, I can't have this. That was like my great road food. I was on the road 150 days a year. I was, professional traveler out there in the world doing my shows. So yeah, that was kind of a weird thing, but just not really after day four. I don't think I ever hit that like, oh gosh, this is going to be terrible and I can't wait to get back because, by a couple weeks in, I had really experienced the other side of this double-edged blade, and I was like, oh, this is actually something that's remarkable. My skin started clearing up within 2 weeks. Bags under my eyes went way down. 12 years of not eating sugar has not done a thing for my hair loss, but it's that joke will make sense when you guys see the photo. But yeah, it's like, no,
I
it
won't
doesn't
put your
reverse.
photo, Barry. No photos.
No photos? All right. Well, you can find me somewhere on the interwebs. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there were already so many good things that were happening, and I was already committed to a year, a couple weeks into this, so it was good. And then, somewhere in the early parts of, I think, and that was probably that I'm going to go for a year was probably just a safety message, keeping one foot in the pool that there's a way out for myself. But I think at that point I kind of knew why in the world would I go do that again? Like I'm on the other side. Why would I go do that again? So, and then at some point, oh my gosh, the temptation for anything like that just straight out the window. It doesn't make any sense. It has no calling. It's not even a fight. Never, it hasn't been a fight for a very, very long time.
Yes,
Well
I
over a
get that.
decade. Yeah.
It's like you get over that hump, or sometimes there's more than one hump, and then it's just smooth sailing, you know? So,
Yeah.
so how do you, or how did you, because I guess it's second nature now, but first when you were traveling so much and you're out and about doing shows international,
Yeah.
how can you be sugar free when just at every corner there's only sugar, or it seems like it?
Oh my God. Netta, I don't know if you've ever spoken on stages or been a guest at a big conference, but dude, those green rooms are loaded with things the likes of us, go to, and it used to be a really happy place. I'd be like, oh my gosh, look at this green room, it's just so good. And then it got to the point where in my rider, you can have a rider for kind of what you need for your show and hotels and rides and all that thing. And then you can also have a place just for green room snacks. And it was just like, no, I just put things on there like a couple apples, a few bottles of water. Um, if you have someone there who's able to make some cool celery with peanut butter on it, I love those. I would just kind of put in there what I wanted, and yeah, I'd go around and do that. So, but yeah, that was something in the early days, just seeing what that was there. But what it also did was it just gave a wonderful, wonderful perspective on. I used to walk in here and just grab those, and my partner never ate cookies. So I did a two-man act. My comedy juggling act was always with another guy, so we'd go in there and I'd always, I'd have this constant mirror watching me and getting to watch him, of what happens. He just never ate cookies. We go to those hotels where they give you warm cookies when you check in. Like I'd take his, just years of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was what was interesting, just to walk into those rooms and see all this stuff and on airplanes and in airports and go, wow, that was just such automatic behavior. So surprising was, yeah, that self-reflection from the other side was how automatic that stuff was. And I know for sure listeners right now uh, are seeing something in themselves about that, because that automatic behavior, it's in every single person. Nobody thinks I'm going to go in there and buy a 24-ounce Coca-Cola and a 4-pack of Reese's peanut butter cups. It just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. It's called automaticity, and it's like you almost have an out of body experience when you do that, because it's so natural or so second nature, as much to
Yeah.
reach out for the sugar as now not to reach out for the sugar. That's become automatic for you, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's long, long in the rearview mirror. Sugar's funny. It started out like way back in the day. It was so rare and so prized. Royalty had it, and then when it became more mainstream, it was supposed to. That's all in caps. It was supposed to be used as an occasional treat, and somehow, man, you guys, it became a mainstay of our diets. And the tricky thing about sugar is there's nothing in it, the way our bodies treat it, the way it's made, the way it's put into foods, there's nothing in it in processed sugar that is designed to satisfy or make you feel complete. Never part of the equation, never part of the goal. Pure satisfaction and to be complete. A lot of things give us that. You go do a big workout, you feel satisfied and you feel complete at the end of it. You have a great healthy meal, you feel satisfied and you feel complete at the end of it. And then the sugar, it's like it's only 4 letters, or MORE, just more. It beats it out of us. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's designed or manufactured, engineered to do that to you, and all those products. I mean, I don't want to sound like, I'm part of some, so,
Yeah.
but they really are, these products really are engineered to make you want more.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, some savory crackers, Pringles, things that are salty. There's no reason to put sugar in there, except the body goes, ah, this is good. This is good. We can have more of these things. A lot of things we don't even know what they taste like. We don't know like what a real say. Now I just got back from 2.5 weeks of Europe where sugar is not quite as popular. It's it's there, but it's not everything. You can definitely look around and find foods that you go, oh yeah, that taste is so nice, and it would just be killed by you know 8 grams of sugar, which is pretty standard issue for things that aren't even sugary. That's 2 teaspoons of sugar. Yeah, everyone does that. You know, food is actually here to provide nutrition and support us in healthy lives. If we just got rid of, everything else, that's all food's job is. It's the fuel, as fuel is for our cars, to move us forward. More often than not, though, these days, it's used to spare us and save us from boredom or loneliness, just other forms of emotional pain. It's somehow it jumped the shark, and the real basis of that is when sugar just started being added to everything. No one sits around and eats too much broccoli because they're bored. Now, a pint of Ben and Jerry's, my gosh, does that just fill in every hole for a little bit of time while we're eating it? And I'm here. Ned is doing all this work in the world, and we hooked up this little meeting for the reason that I can tell you. Uh, there's freedom, there's healing, and there's power on the other side of not filling those holes with sugar.
Yeah, 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 you said it. It boils down to that. Because we didn't learn, because there was probably no one to teach us emotional regulation, stress management, all that stuff that we use sugar for, or that we use sugar to kind of stuff down all these things so that we don't have to deal with them because we don't know how to deal with them. All that
Yeah.
stuff, when you do stop sugar, is in your face, and that is tough to deal with.
Oh, yeah. And you guys, if you're listening to this podcast, I imagine you're somewhere on this journey. I want to just show you, a mile, 5 miles, 10 miles, or, as maybe some of your listeners are, and I'm not great at the metric system, but somewhere, 10 to 100 kilometers ahead on the road. Expect a couple of dances to show up in your life as you make this transformation in your life. Expect confusion, expect bliss,
Mm.
um, expect resentment, and then expect renewal. Those emotions, those are blankets that shield you from change. All right, if you're "Oh, I'm confused, I gotta go grab something, or I'm feeling so excited, I should celebrate with this, or I'm so pissed, why did I say I do that to myself? I'm gonna throw this out the window. All these are just little old habits that are shielding you from change, because change is scary to human beings. My gosh, it's scary. And the good news is those are also the pad that will just they will soften the unavoidable bumps en route to that transformation that you're seeking on the other side, with skins, with feelings, with energy, with weight loss, with connection, with the ability to focus and concentrate. Actually be in a conversation instead of thinking about what you could be eating or looking over there and seeing something that's calling you. There is so many gifts that will come on the other side of this. And know that they're available to you, and it's a bumpy road to get there. But the same things that are trying to stop you are what will pad you from banging your head on something.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, wise words. And do you find that the last 12 years have allowed you to know yourself better and just to be have a bigger place in the world?
Yeah, for sure. It did. It it empowered me in a whole lot of ways. One was just focus and presence, as I mentioned at the end of this, and I didn't mention that about the big surprises, but the ability to be in conversations and be focused and think clearly. That was just one of the biggest things for me. And, you know, to that end, I got to listen to myself. I got to listen to other people. I got to hear differing viewpoints. I got to realize that, holy cow, something I never even dreamed of is a very simple reality for me now. Yeah, there's a impact in the world. Holy cow. Yeah. I think somehow this book was written 10 years ago, and there's still a check in my email once a month from Amazon with people buying this book. So, that's a really silly kind of financial one that I don't care about at all. But I will tell you, just knowing that the impact that there's people out in the world who find it and see this cover and read a review or two and just kind of say, you know what, there is an interesting There's a thought. I wonder if I could do something like that. So, yeah, impact is probably huge, and I imagine the work I've done, and I know this is true for you too. You very good numbers on your podcast.
Mm,
Uh, you've affected people you will never meet, and
absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
that's pretty rare.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, and gratifying. And now you called your book I Love Me More Than Sugar,
that's right.
which, is, I remember seeing that title and thinking, huh, I would never have believed that this had anything to do with self-love when you cut sugar.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's really interesting because yeah, I guess it's hard to relate those two, but nothing in sugar is helping us live longer. In fact, even like the World Health Organization, and this is going back, this has been going back even further than when I started talking about this in 2012. Uh, World Health Organization, American Medical Association, Center for Disease Control, all working in messages, and we see them all the time right now about changing that relationship to sugar. This is this is so parallel to 1966 when the Federal Drug Administration, the FDA, demanded warnings on cigarette labels. It was that whole idea of we're going to tell you something because you're not able to see it because you're so deep in. I think at some point, and I don't know when this is going to happen, but at some point, while you and I are still very alive and kicking, we're going to the world will look at sugar in the same way that we now look at tobacco.
Hmm.
And that's a big claim, but I see all the signs for it. There used to be these old commercials with doctors talking about cigarettes, smoking one and just saying Marlboro, after a long day in the office, and pregnant women, okay, just yeah, enjoy it. There was no, and now we're at the point where it's so opposite that, and sugar has become that way. I don't think if it stayed in a healthy balance in our life, it was if it was just always that sweet seasoning. I think they used to call it something like that, the sweet seasoning. That would have been fine, but the way it's gone, it's gone to it's gone way beyond sugar. If this were cigarettes, I think most Americans are smoking at least a pack a day, probably two, and a whole bunch of people three
Yes,
of sugar.
totally. Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
definitely. And
tricky.
I often think that cigarettes, like alcohol, lots of people are addicted to them, but at the same time, they're not part of our daily necessities like food is.
No,
And we don't give cigarettes or alcohol to our kids at their birthday parties. It's like socially, food and sugar is not only accepted, but encouraged, whereas
yeah,
cigarettes and
of
alcohol
course.
never were.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that battle it just seems like it's an impossible battle.
Yeah, it's and it's funny. I'm just draw that parallel back to cigarettes. Stopping that, getting that out of our vernacular and our doctors recommending them, doctors saying which ones to choose, and having it. Johnny Carson used to come out from commercials. It was just everywhere. Now that's nowhere, and that probably seemed impossible back then that would ever change. So I'm holding hope, and I do know that I'll be alive one day when the comparison to how we now look at tobacco is a reality in some places to sugar. I think it's close. You know, I studied a lot. I dug in deep around this topic when I wrote my book, when I lived it, when I was talking to people online about it. And I really found these four areas of the human experience that are affected by sugar. Um, One was the brain, because before you even take that bite of sugar, we know this, we live in this world a lot, but the brain is firing up that reward system. It's getting ready for it. It's getting ready. The heart's getting ready. The blood vessels are getting ready. Respiratory system, the blood, just handling that influence. It's all in prep right when we see that cake, when we're getting ready to do it. And that is the exact same one that's fired up by gambling or sex or drugs. Um, all things that have a proven past of addiction. So the brain is heavily affected. Liver, sugar is composed of two molecules, the glucose and the fructose. And glucose, yeah, it can be metabolized by every cell in the body. And if we don't get it from our diet, our bodies make it. So we're okay, we're covered there. Fructose, so very different. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I've just studied enough to be able to tell you guys in a single sentence, the only organ that can metabolize sugar is the liver, because
Okay.
only the liver has a transporter for it. Okay, that's it. So it's all going right there. So liver highly affected. Heart, problem with sugar, is that that it contributes to inflammation of the arterial walls and bad all over the body. Those walls are everywhere. It does that by generating an insulin spike. And when the insulin spikes continuously over and over, it starts to ravage fragile and these ultra important lining of the blood vessels. So you guys, the heart, it just doesn't, it's not rewarded. And finally, the skin. I see videos of myself from like 2008, 2009 on TV. I swear, Netta, I look older than I look right now.
Oh,
Um, it's just brutal to think what it does to the skin. So, if you guys are out there and you care, really care, not just that it's fun to say I care because it feels like you should about your brain, liver, heart, or skin. Um, think about what's happening and know that there's an option out there and it's not that hard. And the other side, there's a freedom that few will ever know.
yes, absolutely. And you're a great example of that, of that freedom and not just looking and feeling good, but also doing good in the world by spreading this
Yeah,
message of how wonderful life is when you're not hooked on sugar.
pretty good out there. Yeah, it's also cheaper. I think it's probably a money thing too. I used to spend a lot of money on all that stuff. Now,
Right. Yeah, because
no
people
money
ask me all
online.
the time, well, wait a minute, you eat whole foods, isn't that a lot more expensive? And I'm like, well, no, actually,
Oh my
it's not.
gosh.
I'm
Yeah.
saving money by not eating all those processed packaged foods.
Yeah, just on the actual cash outlay, let alone the long game on any of that stuff.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's
Yes.
brutal. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you guys, if you're sitting out there and thinking, well, I wonder if there's a way out of this, it's day one. It's always day one. Or if that's too much, it's one meal. That's a really good thing to play with. What would be different if this one meal I didn't eat any foods with added sugar?
Yeah.
How's
Yeah.
that feel?
One meal at
Yeah.
a time, one day at a time. And
Mm,
it's so inspiring that you not only did this for Leap Day, for February 29th, but then for the 30 days. And then you said, well, let's try for a year. And then now it's been 12 years. And then you wrote your book. What year did you write your book?
That was 2014, the end of 24. I wrote it in sort of the fall of 2014, and it came out, yeah, just at the end of 2014, December.
Well, I'll put a link to your book so people can go and buy it. I read it obviously years ago when we first met, and I just
Yeah.
love how it's kind of like a guidebook for those 30 days, right? Where
Mm,
you make people think about the different steps in every day.
yeah. It was really important for me to document that experience. I talked to a lot of people through 30 days, so I knew kind of where not just I was, but where a consensus of folks were. A lot of people I watched go through 30 days sugar free with what I used to do online, and there were definitely trends. So yeah, I talk about some of those in there, what you might be feeling, what you can do, and yeah, it's an amazing journey. I'd be amazed. And I don't think the turnaround rate really ever happened on day 31 for people. I certainly know a lot of people kind of went back to living how they were after that, and that's fine. No matter what, they got to look in the mirror at the person they've been seeing every day of their lives, and they got to see a different person, and that there's a lot of value in that. Um, and I know a ton of people. In fact, I was just in Europe and in London. I had a lunch. I booked a beautiful restaurant. I said, I have 12 seats. If I've ever worked with you, come on in. I have people from my business world, people from my show business world. And one lady came from my sugar world, believe it or not, way back then. It was amazing. She took 2 hours of trains and she said, I just could not miss the opportunity to meet you in person. So it was
Wow,
phenomenal. And yeah, she just looked great
fantastic.
and alive. And I had a little time with each person at that. And she just hugged me and
Wonderful.
said, thank
Oh,
you. Yeah,
wonderful, wonderful. Well, as I say, I'll put
crazy.
the link to your book. And Barry, thank you ever so much for talking to me. You're such an inspiration. Fantastic. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Netta. Thanks, everyone. Good luck.
Gosh, so inspiring speaking with Barry and seeing that a decision he made, or rather, that his son made at the time, to go sugar free for just 24 hours changed his whole life. So it doesn't have to be this huge commitment that's like a huge mountain that you feel you have to climb. As Barry said, you can start one meal at a time, one day at a time. And if sugar is also making you feel like you're addicted and you feel stuck in this vicious cycle where you keep stopping and starting and falling down this slippery slope towards cravings and then feeling guilt and shame about giving in to your cravings, well, if you are feeling like this, then I invite you to check out my 90-day program, The Freedom from Cravings Formula. If you're at a stage in your life where you're ready to get rid of cravings, then as I just mentioned, my program, The Freedom from Cravings Formula, could be a perfect fit for you. But there's so much confusing and contradictory information out there. How are you supposed to know what's right for you? Well, that's exactly why I created my 90-day program, The Freedom from Cravings Formula. It's a program that's specifically designed for women over 50 who want to get rid of cravings and feel more in control around food, especially sugar and comfort foods. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you get control over cravings so that you can finally live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly and feel confident in your food choices so that you can ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never feel like you're on some kind of a restrictive diet. If you're at the stage of your life where you're finally ready to look after yourself, let's chat. You can hop on a free clarity call with me at any time by going to aftersugarclub.com and clicking on the big green button, Schedule a Clarity Call. We'll have a quick 30-minute one-on-one chat to see if the Freedom from Cravings Formula 90-day program is a good fit for you. So go to aftersugarclub.com. Speak soon. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.